Another thing that I thought a lot was, this is how it is. It's supposed to be overwhelming. You're supposed to be sleep deprived. There's baby blues, and then there's not baby blues. When it comes to breastfeeding, I had the impression that this was going to be a natural, beautiful experience, that my body would just know what to do. And that was not the case with me. I struggled. He was struggling. We ended up having a scare. It resulted in us going to the ER that same day. In the hospital is when they decided to put us on a really strict triple feeding plan. There was the overwhelming emotions of something's wrong with my baby. We did it for 2 full weeks, and during those weeks, that's when I started feeling like I was a ghost. Felt like I was a machine, like a failure. I didn't know who I was anymore at that point. I specifically remember going in the bathroom and staring at myself in the mirror, and what I really wanted to do was I wanted to tear my hair out. Not just a little bit, I wanted to tear all of it out. I did tell my husband. That was when he was like, okay, I think it's time to talk to somebody.
I'm Wendy Hatcher. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm also a mom. Postpartum depression falls under the umbrella of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. It is the most underdiagnosed obstetric complication. That looks like I am just not myself. Listening for depressed mood, sense of like sleep is disrupted. It can be too much or too little. Appetite typically disrupted. Sometimes difficulty bonding with baby. Sometimes thoughts of suicide or even plans. But oftentimes you're just seeing a mom who feels very disconnected from baby, from life. I hear things like, it's like my pleasure system is just broken. It's the most common complication in pregnancy and childbirth. So it's about 15 to 20% of moms and about 10% of partners will experience it. Things like having a prior history of any kind of mental illness, anxiety, depression, trauma, family history of those issues, any kind of parental health problems, problems in pregnancy or delivery, any kind of breastfeeding difficulties someone might have, financial issues, any kind of relational issues that might be going on in the partnership, big changes, over the last year, sometimes like a move or a loss of a job or COVID, it was a big one. Those are things that would elevate the risk. And just because risk is elevated, there's no guarantee you're going to develop postpartum depression or any one of the other perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, but it certainly will elevate that risk. The most important thing is to reach out to someone because we can help. You are not alone. And we're going to evaluate. So I'm going to assess things like, how's your sleep and, how's your social connection? How's feeding going? Stressors, in the household. There's lots of different kinds of things that can also look a little bit like postpartum depression. Oftentimes I will even put off assessing for postpartum depression if someone's just simply not sleeping. If you have a cluster feeding baby and you haven't slept in 2 weeks, then that can look a lot like postpartum depression. It certainly can also elevate the risk of developing it. So very important to come in and either talk to myself, talk to someone on your team. You could talk to one of your OBs, you could talk to your primary care doctor. So each of us are qualified to assess and make those decisions with you. There's a handful of things that are really important. The first is certainly speaking up. It's really important, that other people in your village are aware that this is going on so they can also support you in doing the things you need to do to take care of yourself. Certainly all moms postpartum need support and need sleep and need movement and need connection. But, when you're trying to recover from a clinical syndrome, that's even more important. So at least 1 4-hour block of sleep plus extra sleep in a 24-hour cycle is critical. After your OB approves, it's really important to get at least 30 minutes of daily movement. That does not need to be consecutive. That can be 3 10-minute walks, 2 15-minute walks, but we know that getting that 30 minutes of daily movement is as good as medication for mild to moderate symptoms. And staying socially connected, whether that's with your village or, coming to a group, even just getting out of the house, and sometimes medicine. Moderate and sometimes severe cases of postpartum depression, psychotropic medication is a really important piece of that puzzle as well.
I did get on medication. She told me that within 3 days I should start even feeling a little bit of myself, and it was overnight. I started feeling like me. The color started coming back. To this day, I tell everyone and anyone that Dr. Hatcher saved me. She just pulled me out of it, and she's been with me ever since that experience.
This is the most common complication of pregnancy and childbirth. This says absolutely nothing about you as a mother. This has nothing to do with the relationship that you will come to have with your child. This is a medical disease that requires treatment. I know it feels very personal, but it is not. And so when we recognize it and we treat it, then you will be better.
If you are in the thick of this, you are feeling isolated, inadequate, or feeling like a failure, to just know there is a way to break through it and to have hope and to be in a better place. You're worth it, and it's about you and your baby.